Well, I think here on Catbird Hill, Catbird Hill Lumber Works, I think I'm specializing in the ugliest saw logs ever. And this one I think might be in the running for the top one so far. So this is a pine, eastern white pine tree that I cut down probably 3 or 4 years ago. Sectioned it into two lengths. This is exactly. Let's see, what did I do here? This is exactly 6 feet long. It is about. It's a little elliptical shaped at the end. It's about 10 inches by 13 inches on each end, nice and straight. However, one of the challenges with pine, as you may know, is if you leave it on the ground for any length of time, you'll get some insects boring into it. So I know that the outer surface here looks pretty rough, and it is. But my goal is to get an 8-inch by 8-inch cant out of this. That I'm trying to build a bit of a reserve of timbers for the timber frame structure around the sawmill, which I'll be building later. Knowing that it's my first time timber framing, I'm probably going to make a few mistakes, so I need some spare timber. So let's open this up. Let's see what she looks like inside and see if it's worth keeping or not. And we'll take it from there. We put a new blade on the sawmill. We're running a Wood-Mizer Silver Tip Turbo 7 blade. I just replaced that the other day. So we'll see how it goes with this very, very funky looking white pine log. Stay tuned. I'm encouraged. Fairly solid looking. We'll do a flip and see what the other side looks like. All right, let's see here. Well, it is definitely wet. And I'm not using any lubrication on the blade for that reason. This wood is saturated. We've had tons of rain. Feels pretty solid. I'm not feeling any punkiness. Let's flip another time and we'll see how it looks squared off. All right. Oh, that's pretty. That is pretty. The only thing I'm worried about is this side here. I just tore off what probably was just a little bit of bark. That actually seems pretty solid. I think that'll be okay. That's definitely looking better. A little more encouraged than I was when I started. Now I don't know if I'm really going to be able to get an 8x8 out of this, and the reason why, you may have figured it out already, is that this log has a sort of a dip in it here. Seems to be another specialty here on Catbird Hill. I don't know why we're finding all these logs that have this dip, but you can kind of see that there's sort of like a little swell in the middle there. So I don't know how much we're going to be able to salvage. Obviously I'd like it to be really square, 8x8, but maybe this might end up being an 8x6, which is still a really usable piece of timber. So let's do a final cut and we'll take a look and see what we get. Well, I don't think this is going to give me my 8x8. No, it's not. No, this is just a little too punky. I think I'm just a little too close to the surface here, the bark where all the damage was. But I mean, my measuring was pretty good. Actually, I'm a little heavy on that side. 8 3/4. Well, that's not a bad thing. I think what I might do is I may take 3/4 of an inch off of this side here. This is where there's still a little bit of bark. And I'm going to probably turn this. I think I'm going to do an 8x6 on this. I think I'm going to take an inch off at the top and the bottom here. I like to keep that pith centered as best I can, so I think I'll take a little bit off of the top and the bottom, and we'll end up with that. So let me do that, and we'll see what the final product looks like. Well, we've got our 6-inch by 8-inch pine cant. This is probably the best I could do with that log. It was, I would say, unevenly degraded. One side was a little more punky than the other, probably the side that was, you know, the closest to the ground. Maybe more moisture, more insects got in there. But anyhow, you know, for a piece of wood that a lot of people would probably look at and say it looks like junk, I actually am pretty happy being able to salvage a 6 by 8 inch by 6 foot log or a cant beam out of this. Definitely will be useful as backup timber for the sawmill shed build. What I'm going to do is take it off of the bunks here and bring it back to the firewood pavilion, which is removed from these trees. I have no tree cover behind that pavilion, so I've got really nice westerly wind blowing through there, so that should eventually dry this out a little bit. For being a fairly short log, it's extremely heavy. Like I said, it's very, very wet. And speaking of wet, I'm soaking wet. It has been unbelievably sticky and hot here in southeastern Pennsylvania. If you've been watching the weather lately, we've had maybe 2 weeks now of temperatures in the upper 80s to around 90, humidity about the same amount. You know, every morning we wake up, it's almost 100% humidity. There's a real dense fog, and it never really dries out. We've had maybe 5 or 6 inches of rain in the past 2 weeks. The ground is soaking wet. I'm very reluctant to even bring the Kubota out onto some of the trails just because they're so sloppy. So today I waited for the sun to get behind these trees and get a little shady here and do some cutting. I'm still learning a ton with the mill. I really am. The new blade definitely made a difference in the quality of the cut. The cut is really, really smooth. I don't know if you can appreciate it here or not, but you know, there's virtually no chatter line at all from the blade. The last log we cut here was that white oak, that ugly white oak, and that turned out really well. But the wood, the blade was beginning to chatter and dance around a little bit at the end. It was getting dull. I probably should have changed it before I cut that log. But anyhow, that's how you learn these things. You kind of learn how long you can push a blade before you need to change it. So we're just going to keep sawing along here at Catbird Hill. The weather has, like I said, the weather's really been holding us back from getting some things done. But we've got a little break today, little break tomorrow, then it's going to be back up in the 90s toward the end of the week. So we'll do what we can do. I hope you all are doing well wherever you are. I hope you're not suffering in the heat too much. We really appreciate you watching. We would love for you to share these videos with friends, family, anybody who think would enjoy this content, please encourage them to subscribe if they haven't done so. Please give us a thumbs up, and until next time, John here from Catbird Hill, sweating like crazy. You all take care.